Hi, everyone. Super excited to have you all here. Thanks so much for joining in once again. My name is Arva and I'm from Pragmatic TechSoft. And for over 16 years, we've been helping businesses around the world implement and succeed with Odoo ERP. But what we've learned over these years is that just successful ERP doesn't come in from the software itself. It comes when the people are actually using it correctly. So in our last session, we explored change management during ERP rollouts, where we put out a detailed action plan on how you prepare your team and you manage the transition smoothly. So just a quick heads up for those who are joining us for the very first time. We basically host these bi-weekly webinars, which are focused on solving real ERP pain points. And the solutions that we give are smart, simple, affordable, and they are really doable. So it's just our way of sharing the knowledge that we have gained from various years, in the field, and we are believing in empowering teams like yours to get the most out of the ERP system that they have implemented. And naturally, this brings us to today's topic, which is user training. And it's because once your team is on board, the very next step is making sure that they know how to use the system confidently and correctly. So that is the main thing that will drive the ROI. And to walk us through all of this, all the essentials of building a very effective Odoo training plan, we've got someone who's led multiple training sessions, a true people person who really understands how to simplify things for users at every level. Yashas is our business analyst and the senior functional consultant at Pragmatic, who has helped transform confused teams into confident users. He's brilliant at breaking things down in a way which is very easy to understand. So, Yashas, over to you. Can't wait.
Thank you, Arva. Very good evening, one and all. So, as Arva rightly mentioned, last webinar, we had mentioned about a very important topic called change management. And as Arva also rightly pointed out, any ERP implementation just doesn't depend on the software tool or the ERP tool, because it also depends on how well we are organized as a team, how well we have structured the implementation plan, and most importantly, who is going to adopt this. Basically adapt the changes and basically adapt these mechanisms and also the changes that the new ERP tool proposes. So that's what we are going to look into it today, how we can have a very good user training plan. And most importantly, what should be covered, why is it important, how much of user training is required in the whole organization who is getting implemented with a ERP tool, what are the different types of users that we can look into, and how well this user training plan can drive the success of a ERP implementation. And also get us good ROI, that is the return on investments with respect to the ERP implementation. So the agenda will be for today, basically we'll be looking at how are we going to the key insights, and we are going to look into the trends, and also we are going to look into how user trainings has to be modeled. What are the hidden risks over there? What can be the risks if I skip the training? And if the training is either cut shorts or cut shortened or is eliminated, and how can we model the whole users, that is a user team, who can be identified as which user, what responsibilities do we have to give, what trainings do we have to give. It's not that one training fits for everyone. So all these aspects, and then there is something called as parallel run, which we call it as, which the industry term is. So what exactly is a parallel run? How important is to have a parallel run? What happens if the or how knowledgeable our users become with these parallel runs, and finally how the approval processes should be with these user trainings. And we'll see, and what should happen after the go live. That is, should we continue the relationship or this thing with respect to the momentum with our implementer, or should we immediately abruptly cut off, or is that engagement between an implementer and the host is enough just after the live, or should we continue, how it should continue, what are the documents that we need to proceed further, and all these things. So these are a couple of things which we are going to discuss in a very brief webinar today. So let's start off. Basically, what we are going to put out is how important is user training. That's what we are going to look into over here. Let's look into a couple of statistics. So basically, you can see that almost 15 plus million users use Odoo. That is basically all the organizations. End users is what we are putting out. And The other, the other starting point is under 40% is basically what they're actually grasping. That is basically Odoo has been implemented, but the grasping power or the utilization power is less than 40%. Imagine in 15 million plus users, but the adaptation percentage is less than 40%. That is huge, because not even half of it is, half of the technology or half of the features are not being used, or more people are less confident, is what it says. And most importantly, over 80% of digital transformation projects, as I mentioned this earlier, also fail not because of the software, but because of very poor adoption rates. That is, either the user is not knowledgeable, he doesn't know, or he or she doesn't know what this software does, or what this feature does, or how should we extract a report, how should we perform a transaction. And most importantly, 39% of ERP users report lack of adequate training. That is, they don't have trainings for multiple things. It could be for extraction of a report, or creating a master, or what should be done in a once in a blue moon scenario. Because at that particular point of time during the live process, nobody would have thought that, okay, what is a solution for this case, which happens very rarely. And once it happens after the live, no user knows that, okay, in this new tool, how do I address that? So these could be the problems. So what we usually ask is, which of these modules, because we are speaking specifically with Odoo, what we are looking out is which module could be a troublesome. That is it inventory or accounting, a CRM, or all of them? Because certain users say that, okay, I have specific problems with respect to individual modules, or certain very end users. That is, we'll say what is, we'll look into what is an end user, and we'll see what all types of users are there. But the final ultimate users say that, okay, I'm facing problem with respect to report extraction, I'm facing problem with respect to resolution of an error, I'm getting some error. It's not an error, it's a warning message on the system, but I don't know why it's happening. The report is coming up, but it's not coming in the way I want it. The view is not according to what I want it as a user. So these are a couple of problems which drives down the confidence of a user. So that's what we are going to look into furthermore. And this is what we say: for all this to not happen, user training should have happened in the first place. If user training is not happened, what are the consequences? First thing is, as I said, if a system is directly given, ERP tool is directly given to the organization, to the users and the all the team, they will end up, if the control policy is not there, if proper training is not given to handle the system, duplicate records will start emerging. They will definitely start missing up the workflow steps. They might skip altogether, and they might end up in one particular transaction. They might have missed all the other things behind. Like, for example, imagine they create a vendor bill without having a purchase order and a receipt, which should have happened, because Odoo allows them to create a vendor bill. It doesn't say that, you cannot create a vendor bill or something like that. But the previous steps are mandatory. But what if it is not done, and I directly create a liability later? It's very difficult, or it's basically there won't be any relationship. Even if I get to know that, okay, was supposed to be a purchase order and a receipt, and now the purchase team completes the purchase order, and now the inventory team does the receipt, but there is no link between the already existing vendor bill, which was supposed to be happening after the receipt, and the completed transactions now. And most importantly, the purchase order will still say that the bill is yet to be completed, but already there is a bill. So these kind of things will result in missed workflow steps. And most importantly, as I said, the error prone manual workarounds. And also, user becomes overall, they become overwhelmed by the time. That is, with growing time, they feel disconnected with each and every aspect, each and every feature of the software tool, which will start creating bottlenecks. That is, as I said, I gave one good example. That is complete disconnect between purchase order and inventory and vendor bill. So the accounting team feels that, okay, we can work, basically without any dependency, but then that starts creating the silos, and there is no linkage, and the overall process will fall. And that's the most important thing. And eventually, users will start avoiding the system. That is, they'll treat the system as a data entry system rather than an ERP tool, because a data entry system will, an Excel also is a very good, very, very good data entry system. But what can we make out of it? How different is an ERP system compared to a data entry system? So the ultimate goal of the whole ERP implementation will fail. And then most importantly, for the implementer, this will actually be a increase in support tickets. That is, people from all across the corner will start raising that this is not working, that is not working, we are not able to get the report, we are not able to create a master, or what should be done in this particular use case scenario. So the support tickets raises where the user confidence drops drastically. This will cause, most of the times we have seen in our experiences, people saying that our old system was better than the new system. We'll get back to our old system. We'll scrap the new system that was implemented. These are the common thoughts or the common words that comes out after using the system without proper user training. And the numbers also says the same. So Gartner predicts by 2025, 75% of the companies will suffer workflow disruptions because of skill gaps. That is, skill gaps when we say the user or the person who has to use the system is not aware of how to use the system. It could be with respect to his or her daily transactions, daily routines. If they're not trained with all these use case scenarios, conditions, they will eventually stop using the system and try to get back to the old ones. So a question again, have you ever delayed a module launch or the whole implementation launch because users weren't ready? Ideally, if users do not provide the sign off and they are with confidence, we should not even proceed with the implementation. That's what we also say. We'll also eventually find that out. So with all these statistics and with all this introduction, the biggest question that is asked is why user training is essential. First is, again, getting into some numbers. Approximately $1 million is invested in training returns. If it is invested, you will get almost $7 in return. That is, the reason why we are mentioning this is because knowledgeable user, a very well educated user with respect to his responsibilities or her responsibilities or the roles and the responsibilities that they play, if they're well aware of the system that they're using, they get more out of the system. That is, they can create tasks or they can complete tasks, they can make sure the transactions are done well within the time. It's going to be, in fact, reducing their manual efforts by writing on paper or by recording it in Excel sheet, then making it possible into a data-driven system. Rather, if the user training is given very well in advance, they know each and every scenario. That is the lower level of users, their department heads, then the admin. If everybody knows their individual task, what to do and how to do within the system, investment in terms of ERP implementation can return in multiple folds to the organization in terms of very good clean data, non-duplicated data, non-erroneous data, and moving further, a very clear system. And most importantly, as I said, trained users process invoices or any transactions per se 30% faster and boost the data accuracy by 25%. So what I mean is, if a user is very well trained, they can process any transaction. It could be creation of a simple master. How do I create a new bill of material without any problem? That is, how do I check if there is already a bill of material existing? How do I check if it is something archived? How do I check if this product is already used? So knowing all these things, rather than simply going and click on create and creating a new bill of material without even knowing that there could have been a bill of material which is archived or a duplicated one. If a user is well aware of all these things, errors reduces, data becomes very, very clean. And even with transactions, they check a couple of things. They do transactions in a faster way than a new user or a completely no knowledge user will perform the transaction. And then most importantly, retaining trained employees. That is, if a user is very well trained, retaining them will reduce the turnover cost. Like, for example, if a particular user have to be replaced with a new person, they move out of the company or we change their designation or anything as such. So a new user coming and learning into the whole thing will actually cost the company more than continuing with the same user. So the more training that we impart on a particular resource, the more advantages for the company and for the whole organization. So if training is an investment, what is the cost of the chaos? Because most of the time, the moment an implementer says that we need 3 weeks of training or 4 weeks of training, some places we even say that we might require 2 months of training. The organization immediately, the host will immediately feel that why so much of importance for training? Let's rush as quick as possible because I need the end result. I want the ERP to be implemented. But if user training is considered as a huge investment with time and effort and cost, what happens? What is the cost that the company is ready to bear after the chaos starts? That is, after everything goes for a toss. So that is what we want to address today. So to do all this, even before we start, we want to put out a strategy, or we want to put out a terminology where we recognize, or we want to recognize users in three different levels. We call it as, basically role-based access. So what we say is the right training for the right role. So we identify, or we want to identify three different types of users. One is the end user. This is the most basic level of user. For example, imagine an operator in a manufacturing entity. That is, he just puts out his task on a day-to-day basis. He's very clearly defined with, he has to pick up the goods. Basically, he has to request goods. He'll do that, and he'll collect the goods from the shop floor, from the stores or the shop floor, and then he does some couple of tasks, that is probably an assembly, laser cutting, and a couple of other one or two aspects, and then he records what was the consumption and what was the output. That's all his job. And if at all a new this thing is required, new components are required for tomorrow, he'll again go and ask with the inventory team. So the basic level of the end user is what we call them, is the ultimate user, the penultimate user who will be using the system. That is, he is the one who is going to create something, a transaction, a master, or look into the basic reports. And over here, you can see the focus area where it is exclusively task-based essentials only. That is, he's not going to worry about what type of bill of material is available, what are the different product masters are available. He has been given very clear tasks. Today these are the tasks. This is the particular product you have to work on. This is what it is, and you have to collect the material. You put up a request, collect it, and then you perform. So to do this, all he needs to learn is how to create a material request. And once he gets how to add products over there, what are the quantities over there, where do I get this? And once the material transfer is done, he has to quickly validate, okay, these are the couple of products that were given. He will probably, a manufacturing order would have already been in place. He'll just complete the manufacturing order. He'll record the consumption. He'll record the output. If there is any scrap generated, or if there is any quality checks that needs to be done, he'll put it out. Or if he'll create any maintenance request, he'll do that. Once that is done, he'll complete these transactions, that is, complete the manufacturing transactions. This is going to be his everyday's job. He's not going to look at what is the OEE efficiency, how much was the throughput in everyday's this thing, and he's not going to worry about anything apart from his roles. So that person is called an end user. Something above that is basically a department head or a report head, is something what we call it as a key user, who will have the knowledge about the complete operation of his department. For example, now I gave an example of the manufacturing end user, that is a daily operator. Imagine his department head or the production supervisor as the key user, where he knows what all the different types of manufacturing process that happens, or what all operations within the manufacturing facility that happens, starting from having a master of products, that is master data of all the products. It could be raw materials, it could be semi-finished goods, it could be finished goods, it could be consumables, it could be scrap materials. All these details he'll know at his fingertips. Apart from creating all these things, he knows what all reports he need to get extracted on a daily basis, or on a periodic basis, or on a shift basis. What reports needs to be discussed with the end users, what reports needs to be discussed with them, that is other department heads, for example, with respect to sales, with respect to purchases, or what reports needs to be discussed with the management. And he also knows all the other aspects of what are the work centers that is available, how many people are available within the team. So here is a person who knows very clearly about the complete department, that is what operations happens in each and every function. So he is something called as a key user. There can be multiple key users within a department. It's not that he or she should be the only key user within the department. There can be multiple people as well within one department. For example, a manufacturing department can have multiple key users and n number of end users. And finally, there can be someone called as a super user. A super user is what we say is someone who is a go-to person, who is a very process expert within the organization, who knows each and every aspect of the entire organization. That is, there will be people who knows the process, who in fact sets the process, who validates the process within the organization. They'll not be, yes, there can certain times they will be the CEOs or the CFOs, but apart from that, there will be one person or a couple of people as a team who work for the entire organization, who will drive the whole system. That is, it could be managing all the decisions, what needs to be done, what are the manufacturing aspects that needs to take up, what way the sales should approach this week, what way the purchase should have this week, how much of receivables should be targeted this week, how much of the purchase payable should be targeted this week. So they take care of all these management decisions. So they will be called as super users. And having super users also know the system will give the complete mastery. That is basically, especially if someone has a trouble, that is, if someone has a problem with respect to using the system, they're not able to get the report, or even if they're doing the process rightly, who is that person who says that, okay, this is step 1 to step 10 or step 8 or something like that, various steps, or the number of steps which has to be done for a manufacturing process. So they are the ones who are going to be final authority, who says that yes, each and every process, each and every master, each and every report is correct. So we propose to have this kind of a matrix in any organization for implementations, that is end user, key user, and super user. Let's dig into these, each one of them more. Let's identify who are they and what are they do. So as I said again, first is super users, who knows end-to-end processes. Basically, they'll be the first internal support line. What I mean by internal support line is, if end user has a problem, he'll first approach the key user. If key user could not find it, because he should be the master of the individual process, if he is not able to find it, or he is not able to resolve it, or he needs more information, he contacts the super users. Super user will be the person who knows the system in and out. In fact, they'll be the people who would have in fact validated whether the system is right or not for the organization even before the implementation starts. So their knowledge will be to that level. So first level, I mean, the higher level is the super users. Then comes the key users, who are the department leads or the people within the department who are in the hierarchy, where they know each and every process within their operations or within the departments. And then comes the end users, who are basically the people who execute daily tasks with precision and clarity. And if what we propose is, with this role-based clarifications are there will be less confusions. The hierarchy is very clear. Hierarchy in the sense, the information hierarchy, the channel of information. I wouldn't call it as a hierarchy. The channel of information exchange will be very, very clear, so that even the implementer will be more relieved with the way training has to be done, will be more strategic into the way training has to be done. And also the knowledge will be shared accordingly with each level of user. So basically, the question that we ask and the method what we propose is every user clear on their role and are ready to own it? That's the most important part. That is, if an end user says that I know the processes, how to do the transactions to my level, more than enough. If key users know that, okay, what all things has to happen, that is, if I have to do a complete procurement process, starting from creating a vendor to putting up a purchase order with purchase revisions and finally placing an order, we know all these processes, and we even the rare case scenarios also we're able to capture. We know how to take it up. We know how to extract all the reports. It could be MIS or it could be daily operational reports. If they can take the ownership on their own with necessary training, with all the adequate training, then the whole implementation becomes much more of a success. So let's get into each one of them. So the super user is whom we call as the system champion. That's the backbone of the ERP adoption. So as I said earlier as well, they know, first of all, they will be the people who has in-depth knowledge of the business process of the organization. That's the first part. They will be the person, super user should be the people who knows each and every aspect, that is, including all the departments of all the processes. And they will be actually, I mean, as I mentioned earlier also, in fact, they are the people who would have validated that any ERP per se. For example, in our case, it's Odoo. The Odoo is the right tool for our organization. That call will be taken more than the management. That is, management will say, yes, we want to implement this, we want to take up this investment and everything. But then it's these super users who will say that for our business processes, for our kind of an organization, depending on the size, depending on the knowledge of the users and everything, and the scalability of the whole business process, they'll be the people who will validate this whole ERP. Yes, this is the tool that we want. So teaching them Odoo or training them with Odoo modules or with the business processes is the ultimate thing. That is, basically, they will have to know each and every business process. And most importantly, as I mentioned earlier as well, they'll be the people who will troubleshoot and approve the workflows if the key users are not able to do it. And as I said, any change in the whole system or any change in any particular workflow, they'll be the people who will be approving it. And then they'll be the people who will be, if at all there are any scenarios where it requires the training of a key user, they'll be doing it. It's like a train the trainer concept. So they will be training the end key users. The key users will be training the end users. The whole aspect you don't have to worry about like is the whole training to be done by the internal team. No, the implementer will take the responsibility of imparting the training to the end users, key users, and the super users. But after the implementation, if any new changes has to be put out, or if there is any new user that comes up, it's the internal team which takes it on their own. And most importantly, as I said, he'll be like a final gatekeeper in user testing and system sign off. That is, end user say that, okay, I have captured all these transactions. The key user says that, okay, all the reports are coming up. But it's the super user who will validate the complete transactions, that is the complete business processes within Odoo or within any ERP. And he will be the final person who says that user acceptance testing or the user training is successful. We are able to do all the transactions. We are able to create all different types of masters. We are able to extract all different types of reports. Could be MIS, could be operational on a day-to-day basis required. So all these things, including statutory. So everything is possible. Our users are confident. Our key users are able to do their job with the ERP more efficiently, more seamlessly. So he or she will, or the team will be, super user team will be the people or the group of people who will validate the whole UAT. As I said, is your super user ready to be the go-to problem solver and guide your team? This is a question that we ask right now. Is there a super user currently with your team? Are there people who knows business process along with the ERP tool? That's Odoo. Odoo is for our example right now, but any ERP per se, this is what is required. Key user is basically, as I said, the departmental anchor or the operational anchor in each and every operation. He can also be called as a power play for every department. So they will be exclusively experts in their departmental processes within Odoo and also with the business processes in day-to-day operations. And they'll be the responsible people for maintaining the master data, preparing reports, what reports has to be done, what should be their formats, what are the SOPs, that is the standard operating procedures in each and every process. That is because they know their department very well, they know their operations very well, the group of processes very well. They'll be the people who say that this is how a process should happen, or this is how a process should not happen. So all these SOPs will be put out by the key users. And most importantly, they are the ones who are going to bridge the gap between the end users and the super users. That is, the end users cannot run to the super users as and when they find a issue. It's the key user who will address it. If they are not able to do it, then it goes to the super user. So that at the initial level, especially the moment we start implementation, the go live is done, a new ERP is adopted, that will be like a hot cake. Most importantly, because users will be using their new ERP tool, they'll be having a lot of questions, and they'll also be in a pressure to complete all their backlogs and other things in the new ERP tool. So a lot of things will be running. They'll be testing it out. They'll be having new scenarios to be captured in the new ERP. So end users will be in fact bombarded with too many transactions or too many things. So at that moment, taking up to super users, everything will become a problematic and chaotic situations. So the key users will act as a communication bridges. So they will address all the minor issues which the end users have. And if they are not able to do it, then it will be escalated to the super user. And most importantly, it's the department user or these key users who has to testify that, yes, the end users have understood all these things. We are able to capture the processes, reports, as I said, the transactions, the reports, and the master data. It could be reports of all types, masters of all types of their own department. So the key users own the business processes of their respective departments. And most importantly, again, a question: do your key users confidently drive adoption and troubleshoot within their department? That's the most important thing. It's not that, okay, there is a new transaction that, a new business process has to be adopted. We are putting up a new operations, or we are putting up a new process. The key user should be confident in such a way that they test it out first in the system. They impart the training to the end users and make sure the new organization goal is achieved. So that's how the scalability works. It's not that every time a new feature is required, we call the implementer and then we say, is this required? Is this there? Can you impart the training? It's in fact the departmental users, or the key users is what we call. They will test out, they will trial the things in the system. They'll have the mastery within their department. That's how it should work. And finally, the end user, as I said, the operational expert, he or she is the person whom we can call the heartbeat of daily operations, because they are the ones who are actually going to do the transactions. It's not the management or it's not the super user. That is, it's the key users who will actually punch the transactions, or it could be any transaction. It could be sales, purchase, inventory, HR, maintenance, repair. There are n number of modules in Odoo or in any ERP. So the end user is actually the person who's going to perform this transaction or create a record or create a report. And they only know what to be done. That is the steps of a particular transaction or a particular operation. They'll not be knowing anything outside it. So, and most importantly, if something doesn't work, they know whom to escalate it. That's the only thing that they know. And most importantly, they'll be given only specific task. It's like only specific dashboard or only specific report or only specific masters. And he or she will be the people who will be basically providing the feedback of how well they are able to do the transaction or create a report or create a master data, so that the system readiness is actually given by the end user. That goes to the key user and finally will be validated by the super user. So question again, are your end users confident, accurate, and equipped to keep business running seamlessly? Because they are masters of the operations, but is this operation converted into digitalized form in a lively manner? Because as I said, there is a difference between data entry system and an ERP system. I can use Odoo at the end of the day to punch all the transactions, which doesn't mean anything. It's like it just gives me transactions saying that yes, we did the manufacturing operations. If I actually look into it, how much time did each and every operation took for or it consumed for, I'll not be having any information, because my users are not trained or they're put up in such a scenario that they do all the transactions manually. That is manually in the sense they perform all these operations in the shop floor from morning to evening. They take 15 minutes of time, like punching the timesheets, and they do take all the data and dump it onto the system. This is, yes, even though the data is captured into the ERP system, this is actually not an ERP system in live. So the actual ERP system is in such a way that the end user does the transaction in the system, in the ERP system, as and when they're doing the transactions, I mean, physically as well. The moment they receive a particular goods, the moment they do they convert a particular RFQ to a purchase order, they want to send out some information, that has to reflect in the ERP tool as well. And that has to be done by the end user. It's not going to be done by a key user or a super user. So that's the reason we call he or she, the end user, as the heartbeat of daily operations. So another most important aspect is, yes, we now saw the different levels of users. The other one most important, apart from the user training, is something called as parallel run. What is this parallel run? Like, for example, let us imagine we are already in a legacy ERP. Let's call it as ERP1, whatever it could be. I don't want to take names. And then we are moving into Odoo. For example, new ERP called Odoo. For in the next 3 months, we are having an implementation. Now, apart from just the training and apart from all the sign-offs and this thing, that is, yes, we did that is basically the as is was done. That is, we collected all the requirements, then we designed the whole system tailored with Odoo, and then we imparted the training. Everything went well, and are we going to go live? Isn't it better if we have a parallel run, which we call it as, which we term it as a parallel run for like at least a month, so that my day-to-day operations goes hand in hand with in my legacy system and also in Odoo for 1 month, so that my users will get very well trained. As I said, we run legacy and Odoo systems side by side. At least, we give a target to all our end users saying that you have to perform at least half of your transactions, or at least worst case scenario, if it's a large organization with too many transactions, 20 to 25% of these transactions has to happen in Odoo as well. 100% of the transaction should happen in legacy system. There is no doubt, because until the cutover and go live, legacy system goes on. So 100% of the transactions happens in the legacy system, but at least 25% should happen in Odoo as well for 1 month or for a couple of days, couple of weeks or couple of months, because this will give the data correctness in the system. This will also increase the confidence. As I said, they can catch the data issues, they can confirm user confidence, they can validate each and every process, because over a period of 1 month or 2 months, it is very, very crucial that they'll end up with doing all types of transactions, not just the best case scenario, because most importantly, they'll be doing the regular scenario. But once in a while, a new, very rare, very important scenario comes up, which nobody would have been prepared how to address in the new system. So it's better to better to have a parallel run, so that we validate it for a period of time. And most importantly, with this parallel run, we take at the end of the parallel run, we take a sign off from each and everyone. That is, end users say that all the transactions masters they are entitled to are correct. Key users say that with all this parallel run, they are able to address all scenarios, capture all the operations, capture all the reports. and say that the system is ready. I mean, the department operations are correct. And combining all these departments, the super user now says that we have done the parallel run for at least a month or at least 2 months. And now all the reports and all the issues or all the operations are being captured very, very successfully. So this is how the sign-off process also goes in. And most importantly, why this is advantageous, it will prevent costly go-live failures. That is, as I said, one department is not ready, another one was ready. Instead of rushing to go-live saying that just after training, yes, we are done, we can put that into actual scenario before the go-live, calling it as a parallel run or a trial run for a couple of weeks or months, and then evaluate the whole system. Then we make the system live. So that would be a very, very advantageous approach. So what happens if skipped? As I said, unprepared users, errors, data corruption, costly delays. So are you risking to go live without a tested and confident team is a question that we want to ask. So better the parallel, apart from user training, which happens for 3 weeks or something, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on the size of the implementation. It's better to have a smaller, at least a parallel run, so that you evaluate legacy system and also the new system, so that users also get confidence that yes, the system is better. The system gives me more efficient time, or more, it reduces my manual this thing. It gives additional reports compared to our legacy system. So all these are advantages. And coming later is the user manuals and documentation. One of the very wrong notion about user manuals and documentation is it's believed that whoever is the implementer, they have to provide all these user manuals and documentation. What we say is, yes, we as an implementer, we impart the training, we develop the process, we develop all the customizations and everything. But when it comes to user manuals and documentations, it's a hand-in-hand process between the host organization and the implementer. Because basically the key users and the end users are the owners of the whole process. It's the together, along with the implementation team, the key users and the end users should sit together, that is, should come together. They write the SOPs, and according to that, the user guides has to be put out, because each and every end user has their own role. It's not that as an implementer, we will write just the Odoo process. That is, we will say that, okay, to make a purchase order, we'll go with this. That is, you create an RFQ, select a vendor, you have the products, you keep the taxes, you put out all the conditions and other things, and then you check for all the warehouse details and other aspects, complete, click a button called confirm, it becomes a purchase order. But the department head knows that what should be the different types of process that has to be done for a localized purchase order, that is for a domestic purchase order, for an import purchase order, or for a service purchase order, or for a subcontracting purchase order, or for an asset purchase order. Users who would do these purchase orders, different types of purchase orders, could be different. The procedures could be different. The approvals could be different. So this has to be done. If it is tailor-made into Odoo, it has to be done in hand. That is basically hand-in-hand coordination between the implementer along with the key users and end users. It's not just the Odoo process manual that we are going to write. And most importantly, once this is done, the manuals and documentations are done, it has to be reviewed by the super users, so that each and every process is captured, so that everybody knows what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. That's the most important. And live documents are updated regularly as processes evolve. That is, as the operations scale, that is, we scale the operations, and as and when the new processes come up, the same way, looking into the Odoo process, the key users and end users will start adding the SOPs and the documentation. And most importantly, it will support the users well beyond the classroom training. That is, user training is done by the implementation team only for a certain period of time. But what happens after go live? New users come up, or the users keep changing in the department. Who is going to train them? It's these documentations which are in place. Not just, I don't want to call it as a user manual, but like a complete documentation, especially the SOP documentations, along with Odoo process. Or the ERP process is what we call, which is very, very important, which goes beyond the classroom training. And most importantly, as I said, the question again, does your team have easy access to clear approved process guides? Because most of the times they know it by heart. Someone would have trained them, but they don't have a documentation for it, even to train new people. So that is what we believe as very important in the modern implementation times. And formal sign-off, that is, before we go to make live, how or who confirms the system readiness at each and every level. What we say, as I mentioned earlier, the end user confirms the transactional confidence and also signs off with respect to, I'm able to capture the masters, I'm able to capture the transactions. These transactions which were given to me, I'm able to successfully do it. It could be reports, masters, or transactions. Then the key users will validate the complete process of the department. That is, they will have to validate each and every process within their department with multiple end users, look into the masters, look into the reports, look into the transactions. Then they say, for me to for me to run the complete department, the process within Odoo or within any ERP will fit very right. That is, my key users have tested it. We are able to capture each and every business process of our department. Finally, locking each and every department, the whole organization as a complete, as one entity. That is, we are able to run the organization successfully with having dependencies with each and every department and driving the whole data together as one, will be given by the super users. So this will make sure we have a reliable go live with minimal surprises. That is, we didn't check this particular report, we didn't check this particular operation. So there won't be any such spaces, space for any such conversations. That is, each and everybody would have owned their processes, they would have owned their responsibilities, and they would have given a proper sign off with all the documentations and training in place. Question again, is every process and user signed off before launch? And that's one of the most important part, because it's a responsibility handover from implementer to the host, saying that yes, we have imparted the training, right? Your users have acknowledged that all the things are clear, masters are coming correct. They're able to create and validate all the masters, they're able to perform all the transactions, they're able to extract all the reports. So that is what actually be the result of a very good implementation. And what happens beyond go live? Now we saw training, parallel run, documentation, sign off, and what happens after the live? That is basically the host and along with the implementer should schedule regular refresher sessions, because if there are new processes or if someone wants to bring in new process or implement new changes, these kind of sessions will help the users also, and it will also, if at all, because now most of the ERP tools are cloud based. The ERP tool itself will be bringing up with new changes. So if there are any new changes, that can also be incorporated with these kind of sessions. And then as I said, apart from the implementer as well, the super users and the key users can act as peer coaches, and they'll be the first line support. It's not the implementer every time. If there is an issue, in fact, what I would always suggest is, it's not the ticket to be raised to the implementer first. First, internally, the key user has to check. They'll have to look into the issue. If they'll not be able to put it out, then the super user will look into it. And finally, if nobody is able to capture it or nobody is able to resolve it, then it should come to the implementer. That's how it should work. And updating user manuals and SOPs with process changes. With any process changes or something, the SOP documents and the user manuals can internally be changed without any dependency on the implementer. And most importantly, use the dashboards to monitor user adoption and performance, how well they're capturing, what is their, are they capturing the right information? Are they capturing the right transactions, masters, and reports? All this can be put out within the dashboards of Odoo itself. So question again, is your training program evolving with your business needs? That is, with the new business needs, is your training program is also getting evolved? That is one of the most important questions to be answered. So couple of action steps that we propose to be taken to move from confusion to confidence. Our first is, most importantly, as I said, the defined roles. We are looking into it once again. So basically, we are going to check that all the roles are established, and tailor-made training modules or tailor-made training steps are put out. That is, each end user from each and every department will be given only specific trainings. They need not be bombarded with everything. So that is the role definition. And most importantly, testing and parallel runs. And then comes empowering the super users with system ownership and governance. That is, they take up the ownership of the whole system. And most importantly, making it as a continuous learning. It's not just that one training period is done and then they are done with it, so they don't get into the training or they don't get into the continuous learning process. As and when the new features come up, they have to be put out into new trainings, or as and when the SOPs change, how well we can improvise the system is all given ownership to the key users and end users, so that they evolve the system better. And then the question again, what is your first step towards empowering your Odoo users today? That is, if you are an organization who are listening to this and you have implemented Odoo or any ERP, what are your steps to empower your users? So the final checklist or the things what we want to put out is just to make sure all the bases are covered. Have all the roles, that is user-based roles, that is super user, key user, and end users. Have the parallel run scheduled, and is the parallel run planned? If not, I would definitely suggest you to have a parallel run, if not any other ways to make sure your users are very confident with respect to using this system. And then are the user manuals prepared in discussion with both the implementer and the internal team, so that all the SOPs are put out, reviewed and signed by the super users. And most importantly, before going live, that is before saying that everything is done, we can get into the new system, has formal sign-off be clearly communicated between the implementer and the organizer. And most importantly, after the training, what happens? That is the post go live support system, training system. Is it already clearly planned? Is most important things that we need to check it. So this can be a go live checklist for all the organizations who go with ERP implementations, especially with Odoo. So does your Odoo training plan leave any gaps? If yes, now's the time to fix them. So with these kind of aspects, with this checklist, we suggest take up the look into your implementations, look into your training methods, and please do adopt this. So why we say this and how we say this is basically because of our long living experience with 16 plus years of ERP and Odoo specialization. We have found these methods basically because of continuous implementations. More than 1,000 implementations is what we have done so far. And that's what we stand for. Like, we give tailored training programs, and we implement across various modules of Odoo, and also have a global approach as well. So if you have any questions, that's the whole point of user training for today. If you have any questions, you can let us know. Thank you.